This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Hey, it's Blue all by himself. What are you looking at, Blue? You must have been staring at the camera. I mean, looking at yourself. Weird. There he is. What are you looking at? That's weird. That's weird. He's looking at himself. Blue. Yeah, that's right. I'm over here. Well, how's it going, everybody? I went to, after getting my colonoscopy, I go into the doctor and we're just. And I said, hey, let me get my flu shot prior to going there. So they did the flu shot first, then we met. And then I said, well, can I get my COVID booster? And she looked and, oh, wow, you've been over 6 months? Yeah, go ahead. So then I went out in the lobby. So I got the flu shot in my right arm. And then about 45 minutes later, because there was a couple people ahead of me, I went home, then drove back out there. It's only a 4-minute drive, probably. And then I got the Pfizer booster in my left arm. Can't wait for tomorrow. Hey, thanks, Cassandra Morris. Yeah. Yeah, we got that dumbass rodeo clown YouTuber making videos again. Charles Manson's lookalike. That guy. He's it's like crack for him. I haven't even talked about that guy for a long time. You know what I'm talking about, right, Georgina? Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing this whole regiment thing right now. I'm going to do the, tomorrow I have a sleep disorder meeting. I don't feel like I ever really sleep great. Yeah, well, I don't know why you ever watch that guy or support him. He's an absolute embarrassment to mankind, actually. So it's weird that people actually go over and go, "Hey, good stuff," when all he does is play other people's shows and pretends that that's what he's doing. Don't worry about who it is. It's just ridiculous. I don't know where Chloe is, though. Chloe! Oh, there she is. She was just over by the door. What are you doing? Yeah, I don't know why you watch him at all. He's an embarrassment. Man, it's weird. It's just so weird. I haven't even talked about the guy. Haven't mentioned his name. The reality is, behind the scenes, he's emailed me a couple times saying, "Hey, Gray, tell me about," and I go, "Listen, dude, I don't really want to have anything to do with you because of how you acted before. I don't dislike you or anything, but I don't want to talk to you." And so he just sits around moping and gets so upset about it that he then has to make another video. He's just he's not a good person, you guys. He pretends, "Oh, Namaste. Oh, yeah." Yeah, give me a break. All right, give me a break. All right. I don't know if you guys watched any of the Rittenhouse stuff today. Did any of you guys watch that? I'm going to play this one part because I really like the judge. I've got this about a 15-minute clip. The link's in the description too, but the judge was incredible. Okay, so when you watch this judge, and you just like the prosecutors are trying all these dirty little tricks and everything, and you can tell that he's already seen enough evidence, wondering why this probably even got to trial or anything. The judge has, so he's just sitting around like, wow. All right, so I'm going to play that first. And if you guys wouldn't mind, would you go out and share the link? Look at the number right now. 118 people. Like, I don't even know if my videos, YouTube even sends them out anymore to anybody. It's unreal. Yeah, so we'll just pause the show. You guys all take the link to the show and go run out somewhere and put it somewhere. Okay, let's see how that works. It could just be that the topic doesn't appeal to anybody. Yeah, put it on Twitter, do something. I don't know what's going on. I guess I need to pay for subs, the live viewers, Then it looks like, oh wow, I need to go watch that one. Yeah. And heck, I'm even on earlier tonight, where more people should be available. Yeah. Well, all right. Good. Good. All right. I'm gonna play this right now, though. So this is just sort of, it leads into it and then it goes through it. It's only about 15 minutes long. I watched it on television.
You indicated that at no time did this gun, this AR-15, ever leave the state of Wisconsin. Is that right?
Other than the night after, other than that.
Before the shootings?
Correct.
There was a time, though, where you
correct.
wanted to have it with you down in Illinois.
Boy.
Wasn't there?
I believe there was a time when me and Dominic were mad at each other. Yeah.
You were mad at Dominic?
Me and Dominic were mad over something.
And you wanted to have the gun with you down there?
I think I said something along those lines.
You'd agree with me that... Let me back up for a second here. You have testified...
No, I think you're totally wrong, Nanobot. See, what it is Nanobot, I think you're somebody that's watched it. You watch CNN and MSNBC for so long, just like the Russian collusion shit with Trump, that you actually believe Kyle Rittenhouse was this guy who just showed up like Rambo and started firing his weapon at everybody. And as you could tell in the trial, it was anything but that. Even the prosecution witnesses absolutely disagree with what you just wrote up there.
This jury that you used deadly force against Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, the man who attempted to kick you in the face, and Gage Grosskreutz on the night of August 25th, correct?
Yes.
And you did that because you felt that your life was in danger from those four people, correct?
Yes.
And you are telling this jury that it was, in your mind, justified to use deadly force to protect your own life, correct?
Yes.
You'd agree with me that you were not allowed to use deadly force to protect that CarSource building, correct?
Well, I wasn't using deadly force to protect the property. I used
Right.
deadly force
That's
to protect
obvious.
myself. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please listen to my question and answer my question if you can.
This guy.
You'd agree with me that you were not.
Yeah, so the comment that what's-her-name made up above, now Nanobot said, I can't with this garbage. You should be saying it about this guy right here. He is the most pretentious bullshit. He might be really good, like known in the system, but he's an embarrassment. This guy right here, he really is. He is trying every trick under the, he should be looking for the truth, not trying to trick people. Okay? And that's what makes this guy sick. I guarantee it. This guy right here, I would bet money that he's put people in prison that were innocent because he was probably, he probably had sympathetic judges that were like, yeah, keep going, yeah. Like the Justin Ross Harris judge, yeah, that sounds great, yeah. That's what this guy, he's had that many times, and I guarantee it, he's put people in prison that didn't do a damn thing.
Allowed to use deadly force to protect that car source building, correct?
No,
Yes.
He didn't think he was a cop.
You agree
or
with me
anything.
that you were not allowed to use deadly
That's
force
incorrect.
to stop someone from smashing the windows of an unoccupied parked car, correct?
I don't think you could use deadly force for that.
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone from lighting a metal dumpster on fire, correct?
Right, yeah.
Correct?
You'd agree with me that
Yeah, so he brought his weapon for self-defense because at these places there are violent people, and we saw it all summer long. The left wing, the Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they're out there absolutely destroying things. Now there were other people there that weren't doing that in those same groups, but there were elements that were burning, looting, rioting. There's no other way. I mean, it was funny. You watch CNN and you see these buildings on fire behind them, and they go, yeah, it was pretty peaceful here. Yeah, what the hell are you talking about? You sound ridiculous.
you can't use deadly force to stop someone from tipping over.
Correct?
You'd agree you can't use deadly force to stop someone from lighting a flatbed trailer on fire, correct?
Correct?
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone who is about to start an unoccupied car on fire, correct?
Correct?
You'd agree with me that you can't use deadly force to stop someone from lighting some traffic cones in the middle of the street.
Right, he didn't
on
use
fire.
it for any of that. Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Everybody believes that.
So
Yep.
you understand
Yeah.
that there's a difference between using deadly force to protect yourself and using it to protect property.
Yes,
correct?
you
Yes.
And you'd agree with
condescending
me that
pile
you're
of
not
shit.
allowed
Yes,
to use deadly force to protect property, correct?
Yes.
But yet you have previously indicated that you wished you had your AR-15 to protect someone's property, correct?
I'm going to ask you to go into the library again for a moment, please.
No.
Please don't talk about
Here,
the case.
watch this. Listen to this right here. This guy's a joke. And I've seen him before, too. Yeah. So now that you listen to him and you know what's really going on, you start wondering, wow, how many people is this guy incarcerated? I'd go back and start looking at all of the people he's prosecuted.
He's either forgetting the court's rulings or attempting to provoke a mistrial.
Sorry for the
in this
blurriness.
matter.
That's
He
just
knows he can't go into this, and he's asking the questions. I asked the court to strongly admonish him, and the next time it happens, I'll be asking for a mistrial with prejudice. He's an
Come on.
Mr. Finger?
First of all, Your Honor, this was the subject of a motion. I'm well aware of that. And the court left the door open.
For me, not for you.
Wow.
My understanding of
You
your...
should have come and asked for reconsideration. You did on the one motion, and in fact, I granted your motion for reconsideration.
That was not our motion.
Excuse me. I did. I granted.
We did not move
That
to
was
reconsider.
their motion.
We have not filed
forgive
any
me.
motions to reconsider
Forgive
in
me.
this case.
That was their motion for reconsideration, which I denied. But I said I denied it, or I indicated a bias towards denial is what I did. Held it open with a bias towards denial. Why would you think that that made it okay for you, without any advance notice, to bring this matter before the jury? I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that. And it gives, I'll leave it at that. So I don't know what you're up to.
May I respond?
Yes.
We filed an other acts motion on this exact issue.
May I respond?
Because in my mind, and I argued this,
Whatever.
it is identical to what was going on the night of August 25th, in the sense that the defendant was using this exact same weapon. He was using it in a manner to try and protect property.
No, he wasn't.
Your Honor, with all due respect,
I'm not going to rehash the motion. Yeah, that's absolutely untrue.
Yeah, see, that's true. He didn't have the gun there to protect property. It was there to protect himself. It was self-defense. He wasn't there, ooh, if anybody comes near, I'm going to start shooting people. See, that's what this guy's trying to make it seem like here. And the judge knows that this guy, man, it's unreal.
Your arguments of record, my comments are of record, and why I ruled as I did is of record. There's nothing that I heard in this trial to suggest anything's changed, even if you're correct in your assumption that you know more than I did at the time. You should have come to the court and say, I want to go into this. Why you would think that you could go into it without any advance notice to the court, I don't understand that. And as the defense is pointing out, you're an experienced trial lawyer, and this should not have been gone into.
Your Honor, there have been things in this case, testimony in this case, that I believe opens the door to this. For example, the defense has introduced evidence that the defendant pointed a gun at a man wearing yellow pants because that person was on a car on the car source lot. Now, there's no justification that I can think of why the defendant would point that gun at someone. The defendant has just testified this morning that he agreed with that person in the yellow pants, that he pointed the gun at him. He said, I was joking when I said that to the guy in the yellow pants, but he said, he's acknowledged that he told the person in the yellow pants, yeah, you're right. I did point a gun at you when you were sitting on a car.
He said, I did. That's what he
Exactly.
testified.
So he's agreeing. May I finish, please? I'd like to have a chance to make a record, if I could, without being interrupted, if that's okay. He has mentioned that he's acknowledged that he's used this gun to protect property. He's also just acknowledged that he knows he can't do that. I am attempting to impeach him now with the prior August 10th incident, 15 days prior, involving the same gun, where he is threatening to use that gun to protect property. It goes.
He had the gun with him.
Your Honor, he is saying he wished he did so he could shoot people.
You know, there's a lot of difference between commenting about something when you haven't got a gun and threatening someone when you do.
You know, it's interesting, Your Honor, because the entire defense theory in this case is Joseph Rosenbaum, who was unarmed.
I want you to tell me what the defense theory of the case is. I want.
May I respond to what you just said, Your Honor? I'd like to respond to what you just said. I apologize, Madam Court Reporter, but I'd like to try and make a record without anyone interrupting me, if that's okay. I believe that there is a central part of this case that Mr. Rosenbaum is making threats that he has no ability to carry out. So, to your point, Your Honor, you're arguing that this August 10th incident, one aspect of why you don't believe it's relevant is the defendant didn't have the gun with him. This case is about someone who didn't have a weapon, and yet the jury is being told because of those threats, that means the defendant has to defend himself. So, with all due respect, Your Honor, mere verbal threats have already been shown to this jury and used as a basis for someone's subsequent actions. I am attempting, with the defendant, to use his mere verbal threat on August 10th, 15 days prior, that he's going to shoot shoplifters with his AR-15 to impeach the defendant in a murder trial. I would ask the court's forbearance to do that. I apologize, Your Honor. You're right. I probably should have brought this to your attention earlier. I may have misunderstood your ruling because
it's still playing. So.
Made that more relevant. You would admit it, or at least consider it an admittance. I believe, based on the evidence that we've heard, and more specifically, exactly what the defendant said earlier about admitting pointing a gun at someone who was merely jumping or sitting on a car, that the door is open now to this testimony. And I continue to believe that his state of mind, his intent, his belief as to self-defense is the core of this case. That was the basis for my motion. You were strongly inclined against it. I understand that. But now we're in the middle of trial, and there's been a lot of evidence that's come in that I think makes this relevant. So I'm attempting to impeach.
This guy makes it sound like he's teaching the judge, like, you probably didn't hear me right now. Let me just explain it. If I can just use my little swarmy bullshit voice here, Let me see if I can get you to change your mind.
The defendant on his beliefs. I believe I'm entitled to impeach the defendant on his beliefs and on his statements.
I'm going to interrupt you now because you're talking about his beliefs. I think that's what they call...
His statements too, Your Honor. Because he just said, can't use deadly force, can't threaten to use deadly force to protect property. So now I'm impeaching him on that.
Your Honor, the court has seen no reason to change its ruling. And just so this record is clear, in spite of the lengthy statement by Mr. Binger, before we started today, the court specifically stated in Mr. Binger's presence, there's been nothing to have me change any of my rulings. There have been numerous occasions during this trial where they've opened the door. The one time when they're going into Mr. Rosenbaum's prior, the reason he doesn't like guns, and I said something, I whispered in Mr. Krause's ear, it's because of the prior convictions. Please stop. And he did. He knows if you're going to go into something that's been excluded in a pretrial order, you better ask the court, you better get permission. This is ridiculous.
It wasn't excluded, Your Honor.
You know why it was excluded in the first place? Because it was propensity evidence. That is exactly what 90404 is designed to prevent. You're talking about his attitudes. His attitude is he wants to shoot people. Now, I've admitted that kind of evidence in other trials when it's been appropriate. I didn't admit it in this case because, to me, what I've heard in this trial, and by the way, Mr. Richards absolutely correctly points out that just hours ago, I said I had heard nothing in this trial to change any of my rulings. So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the defense
Don't
testimony.
get brazen with me. You knew very well. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. That's number one. Number two, this is propensity evidence. I said at the time that I made my ruling, and I'll repeat again now for you, I see no similarity between talking about wishing you had your AR gun, which you don't have, so that you could fire rounds at these thought to be shoplifters, and the incidents in these cases, which are not, there's nothing in your case that suggests the defendant was lying in wait to shoot at somebody or reflecting upon the shooting for a vast amount of time. Every one of the incidents involves matters that involve seconds in time. So I commented at the time, I don't see the similarity, and I don't see the similarity now. If it's not similar, that's the whole rule. Those are all the exceptions to 90404. Check the authorities. Wigmore and evidence. Judge Weinstein. Colonel McCormick. It's the prior act has to bear the signature of the accused, or it has to be so similar as to suggest it's a common plan or something like that. You have an incident where he's making comments about some alleged shoplifters versus crimes that involve instantaneous actions, whether premeditated murder or whether self-defense, that's for the jury to decide. But I don't see the similarity. I said it couldn't come in, and it isn't coming in, no matter what you think. Number two, I have to be concerned that with what Mr. Richards has said about the progress of the trial, and when you were I said you were over the line, close to or over the line on commenting on the defendant's pretrial silence, which is a well-known rule. I'm astonished that would have been an issue. So I don't want to have another issue as long as this case continues. Is that clear?
It is.
Thank you. Ask the jury to come back in, please.
Yeah, I think there was more stuff that goes on. He just, man. I wonder how many people that guy's got locked up when he had a sympathetic judge that would allow all that same crap. You know, it's just sick. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Nick T. Appreciate it. I love it. Fully open. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I probably won't be opening the phones, but thank you. Let's see. And yes, if you guys like to help out the channel, we're still trying to build up a fund. You know, what's weird is I noticed that we're trying to figure out a different mechanism for identifiers. I think they're going to create their own nonprofit that people can donate to. Then something like that, because I think they on the Intermountain Forensics I've been donating to, that they took there's a percentage that they take out, and I work really hard for the super chats and everything like that, and you guys are always so generous to send them in, and it sucks when they take like this chunk out of it. It's like you send in $3,000 and they want to take out like $150 or something. It's like, well, that's that's a lot of money that you guys send in. So I think it should just be zero taken out. So we got to figure out a way to where they just get the whole thing, right? Thanks, Tony Lee, and I think this is actually. I had a number that was. There should be another like $50 there, because it was 17,000. She sent me the actual number, 17,050. But $50. Yeah, I don't know how that would actually work to build a nonprofit like that. I don't know how that stuff works, but. I don't want some third party to get a chunk of it, though. You know what I mean? That just doesn't make sense to me. I was disappointed when I saw, like $1,000 out of the, 17,050. Almost 1,000 was some, to like a processing
Ocean
thing.
wave.
I thought that was all
wave,
going in.
Ocean wave.
So I'm just kind of letting you guys know that so hopefully we can use a different mechanism on the next one. But Allison, remember Allison? She's the other person that was sitting with Colleen in the show that we did. She is her father just passed away, so she's going to be busy. So put out some good thoughts for her. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, for those of you that are new here, I don't know how many new people are here, but you can see on the screen right here, this channel this year so far, we've donated $37,550. I just haven't put that there. And the Libby Abbey Ballpark's got $1,500. The DNA Fund, $19,550. See, that's the thing is, yeah, so it's $19,550, but there's like $1,200 of that went to some kind of fee of some sort. And
Cup
then,
of coffee.
hey, thanks, Sarita. Then the Polk County Sheriff's $500, Charlie Project $500, RAIN Violence Against Women $5,000, NCMEC National Center for Missing and Exploited Children $4,450, Libby Abbey Ballpark $1,500, and I think it was Texas Echo Search should be $5,050. There you go. There you go. So that's all because of you guys. And I do the show so that people want to support the channel and the charities. All right, let me switch over to the I'm going to finish off the Fort Worth case that we were talking about last night. Have to go down there. I kind of removed some of the articles and kind of shortened it up a little bit. There we go. So back in this area again. And where we were talking about yesterday was the 3 girls in that case where they all went to a shopping center together. And when their car was found at the parking area right over here, and they just disappeared off the face of the earth. This has happened in 1974, right before Christmas. They went shopping. Hey, thanks, Georgina Stoliker. And thanks, Lisa Beimler. I think I've tried to do that once before. I can already tell I think I'm going to have I won't feel that great tomorrow with my shot. Oh, you watched it twice, huh? Nice. Thanks, JD. Appreciate it. Did I miss somebody up there? Sarita, Cindy Leon, thank you. All right, so I'm skipping forward to 2000 now. And we're starting to get obviously more modern newspapers. And so we can hear a little bit about them. This is in the Fort Worth Star Telegram, January 9th, 2000. And it looks like Gracie Bond Staple wrote this. No, that's not right. That's not right. That's down here. Where is it? I don't know. I guess it's we don't get to know at this point. Maybe on the next page. All right. So anyways, Rachel Arnold Trlica, or Trlica is what I think of it, was 17 and a high school student, newly married to Tommy Trlica. So she was really young, 17 and married, on the day she vanished. Today she'd be 42. This is in 2000, so she'd be, 63 now. The mystery surrounding her disappearance has left a dark cloud over her family, her brother, Rusty Arnold, and her older sister, Deborah Hopper, no longer speak to each other, and her mother, Fran Langdon, says the family has been destroyed. And then Renee Wilson was 14 at the time, that December day. She would be 39 now, so, 59. She was friends with Rachel and with all 3 Moseley children who lived across the street from her grandmother, where she stayed when her mother Judy Wilson was at work. And then there's also Julie Ann Moseley. She was only 9, and she didn't want to spend the day alone. Today she would be 34, so 54 or 5 right now. She begged to go shopping with Rachel and Renee, so she really said, I'm going to go, really, it's pretty sad. Rayanne Moseley gave her permission. Julianne's brother, Terry Moseley, now 41, and sister Janet Hensley, 37, say their disappearance has marked their family forever. All right. So, we'll get to probably a recap here. On the morning of December 23rd, 1974, 3 girls from different families set out on a shopping trip to the then rather glitzy Seminary South Shopping Center in South Fort Worth. They were supposed to be home by 4 p.m., but they never returned. Rachel Arnold Trlica, 17, picked up her friend Renee Wilson, 14, and when little Julie Ann Moseley, who lived across the street from Renee's grandmother, begged to go along, The older girls said she'd have to get permission. Julie Ann was only 9 that morning and simply didn't want to spend the day alone. She persuaded her mother to let her go. The mystery surrounding their disappearance continues to confound law enforcement officials while it haunts and tangles the lives of the families involved. For some, time stopped that December day. For others, the tragedy created a seedbed of suspicion and now divides a sister from a brother and a mother from a son. It is a chasm no bridge can span, a riddle with no answers. It is a constant grieving. I mean, what a weird story. This is one of the weirdest disappearance. I mean, you have 3 kids. They're not related, but they're 2 of them are friends, and then another one goes, and they all just vanish from a shopping mall parking lot. The slow days stretched into long years, and the puzzle of the missing girls remained unsolved. Winters turned to summers and back again, and still the families waited for answers. What happened to their children and why? Hey, thank you very much, Sandra Turner. All right, thank you. Oh, interesting. So now we got a picture. Let's see how similar that looks now. So this is the shopping center. I bet it looks identical. They always... Yeah, there we go. See, that's right there. So. Okay. Let me move down to here. Here we go. Okay. Does he expect that someone will be able to claim the money? Let me see. Does that make sense? No, this is the remaining part of Vanish. Did it go to 3 pages? So it's missing. And let me go back to that first one really fast. I want to see which article goes to which. So this is Vanished. And then it says more on Vanished on page 8G. And that's this one. 8G, Vanished. But then down... Okay, so that's the continuation, but it's interesting because even on this page you got a picture of the mall. And then it continues on. I wonder where that came from. That was from 8G, so it actually continues on from this page, I guess. Wow, you hardly ever see where it goes to 3 pages like that. One thing's sure, says Ray Ann Moseley, the mother of the youngest missing girl. Somebody knows for sure what happened. Rayanne is right. For 25 years, someone has lived knowing the truth and never whispered a word. Someone has kept the secret. When 14-year-old Renee Wilson went to her grandmother's house on Gordon Street that December morning, in 1974, in December, she wore red and white sneakers and a pale yellow-green t-shirt with Sweet Honesty printed across the front. The shoulder-length hair had a hint of red and a mind of its own. She probably hadn't planned on going shopping, but when her longtime friend Rachel Trlica, she's a 17-year-old, a married high school student with a car, called and suggested a trip to Seminary South, Renee was game for it. Rachel and Renee had been friends for years. Their families camped and fished together, but Rachel had known Julie Ann Moseley very well. Hadn't known Julie Ann Moseley very well at all. Julie Ann and her family lived across the street from Renee's grandmother's house, where Renee stayed when her mother worked at a dry cleaner's. Renee knew all the Moseley children. In fact, she had a crush on Julie Ann's older brother, Terry. That very morning, Terry had surprised Renee with a delicate promise ring. He'd slipped the ring on her finger and vowed to love her forever, she remembers now with an embarrassed grin. Terry, now 41, was 15 then, with long brown hair and a devil-may-care attitude. The girls asked him to go shopping, but he shook his head no. I mean, no guy wants to go shopping, okay? Especially not in 1974. He wanted to see a sick friend instead. Renee was determined to be back by 4 p.m., so she'd have plenty of time to primp for a Christmas party that night, a party Terry was going to attend with her. The girls set out before noon. They stopped at the Army-Navy store to retrieve some layaways. They traveled on Seminary South, so this is things that they verified, right? The girls set out before noon. They stopped at the Army-Navy store to retrieve some layaway, and then traveled on Seminary South, what is now Fort Worth Town Center, where they parked the Olds 98 on the upper level near Sears. Let's see, when you look at that map, I don't think Sears is there anymore because they're out of business, but when they say upper level, I have the pin over here, so I wonder if, let's see if there's a, yeah, I'm not sure what that means when they say upper level. I don't think is that a parking structure? Yeah, that might be. Yeah, it looks like it. Interesting. I don't know how long that's been there. That parking structure. I think that is what that is, though, because I can see right around on this side. Looks like you can see how a car would go into it and then out right there. So definitely might be where they were parked. Let's see. Yeah, upper level near Sears. Several people remember seeing them in the mall. A few remember Renee's sweet honesty t-shirt. Apparently, they made it back to the car. Their Christmas purchases were found locked inside. Wow, that's pretty wild. We didn't know that yesterday. But what happened next? So it's almost like they were, putting their stuff in the car, and then somebody came up to them. And why would they have bought anything if they were really going to run away? I mean, that should have just put that stuff to rest right away. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, yeah. You're going to go buy a bunch of stuff. You throw it in the car, and then you go take off for a week. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. In 1981, years after the disappearance, a man said he'd been in the parking lot that day, and he'd seen a man forcing a girl into a van. Let me go here. Let's see. One woman told store clerk that she saw some men hustle the girls into a pickup truck. Police never located that witness. Another said the girl had been spotted in a security patrol car. In 1981, like 7 years later, after the disappearance, a man said he'd been in the parking lot that day and he'd seen a man forcing a girl into the van. Hey, welcome, Lee Taylor. The man in the van told him it was a family dispute and to stay out of it. The eyewitness accounts raised a mountain of questions, but not one answer. Did the girls leave with someone they knew? Did they split up? Little Julie Ann going with one person and the other girls going with another? If they were running away, would they leave the clothes they had just got from there you go. See, I was just thinking that. From a layaway in the car? Was there a conspiracy, a setup, a plan to get one of the girls? All of them? Did something innocent take a sinister twist? What happened? Where did they go? Who knows the secret? At first, police said the girls had simply run away, but the parents protested. As if to document the police's theory, a letter arrived the next morning. It was addressed to Rachel's young husband, but the name on the envelope was a formal Thomas A. Trlica, not a familiar Tommy she always called him. Rachel was scrawled in the upper left-hand corner of the envelope. There was no city name on the postmark, only a blurred postal service number, 76G83. Curiously, the 3 appears to be backwards. Maybe it is unfinished 8, or perhaps the last 2 digits of the stamp were hand-loaded. So I think is that a zip code? Postal service number? Yeah, it's a 5-digit. That's weird. Number 3 is backwards. So maybe it's 88. And is that a C? I don't know. Maybe it is unfinished 8, or perhaps the last 2 digits of the stamp were hand-loaded. So I don't think that's a zip code. As private investigators, Dan James believed, and it is supposed to be 38. If it is 38, then it may have been stamped in, I guess that is what that is, in Eliasville near Throckmorton. If it is 76088, then the letter may have been posted in Weatherford. So it sounds like that is a zip code. The letter was on a wheel of paper wider, on a sheet of, why did I say wheel? Wow, that's not even there at all. The letter was on a sheet of paper wider than the envelope. Must be that shot that I just got. Written in childish scrawl, it read, "I know I'm going to catch it, but we just had to get away. We're going to Houston." But the little girl didn't want to just get away, right? Like, she just wanted to go shopping and get out of the house. "We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in the Sears upper lot." See, that's interesting, right? Had the car been found prior to this letter? The original I on Rachel, or the L on Rachel's name, had been short loop that looked more like an E. The writer had gone back over it, making it taller, a taller loop. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So like a low, like you went like this, but then you meant to be high for an L. "I never thought it came from Rachel," he said in a recent phone interview. Rachel's husband, Tommy Trlica, now 47, and a supervisor with an East Texas water department, agrees. "I never thought it came from Rachel," he said in a recent phone interview. Handwriting experts are uncertain. Their tests are inconclusive. While much of that day and the night before are a blur in his memory, Tommy is certain about the letter. He picked it up out of a mailbox himself, he says. He believes the letter was sealed. He doesn't remember anything else in the box that day. No Christmas cards, no flyers, no bills, just the letter. The 10-cent stamp had been canceled that morning, December 24th, 1974. My wife's in the kitchen, so if you if you hear about, you can keep it going. Sorry. Rusty Arnold was only 11 years old the afternoon his sister Rachel disappeared, but he says that day has left an incredible mark on his life. Now 36 and local roofing contractor. You get, see how I got that one? Rusty is determined to discover the truth about the disappearance. He scratches and tears at the case almost daily in a dogged pursuit that has ravaged his relationship with his older sister and his mother. When he was in his teens, Rusty and his older sister Deborah Hopper, now 44, were allies. They often talked about the case and tried to solve the mystery. Deborah was 19 that December day. sitting in her living room, sipping iced tea on a recent afternoon. She is pensive as she recalls that morning that and the sadder milestones of her life. I've made a lot of bad choices in my life, she admits with a sigh. She talks easily about life filled with hurts, an unhappy childhood, failed marriages, a brief stay in a detox center, but none is more painful than the wounds left by her sister's disappearance, she says. We had a special bond, she says. According to Deborah, both girls were afraid of their father, who she says had a hot temper. He was also a sick man who was dying of cancer at the time of the disappearance. That's right. He was 39, right? And was buried that very same summer. Deborah, a trim woman with long blonde hair, smooth skin, and round gray eyes, is herself an engaging mix of sunlight and shadow. It's no wonder that Tommy was attracted to her. Let's see. They were engaged for a short time. As a matter of fact, that's how Rachel met Tommy. What does that mean? They were even engaged for a short time. As a matter of fact, that's how Rachel met Tommy. They met because they got engaged? But on this day, Deborah waves away the thought of a serious relationship with Tommy. We had been engaged. It wasn't a real engagement, she says, rolling her eyes. Tommy, then only in his early 20s, had already lost both of his parents and was the divorced father of a 2-year-old son. He and Rachel had been married only about 6 months when Deborah had an argument with her boyfriend and moved in for a short stay with the newlyweds. So are they saying that she liked him, her, the sister of Rachel, prior? Even given their history, Tommy says there was no uneasiness between them and Deborah. Oh, I see. So that is what happened. So he was engaged to the sister of Deborah for a while. Tommy, he's the husband of Rachel. She recalls that Rachel woke her in the morning of the disappearance and asked her to go shopping. Deborah stayed in bed instead. Deborah was there the next morning when Tommy took the letter out of the mailbox. By the spring 1975, the families were frustrated by the police's investigation, so they hired a flamboyant private investigator named John Swain. He called press conferences, forced the police to let him examine case files, and made headlines. On Swain's word, and he received an anonymous tip that the girls' remains could be found near Port Lavaca. 100 volunteers searched an overgrown swampy bayou. Police had searched there earlier, but with only a handful of people. Throughout the year, Swain kept the spotlight on the case. Swain died in 1979 of what was said to be a drug overdose. So that was the... wow, that's interesting. The death was ruled a suicide. All of his files, including records of this case, were destroyed. Interesting. Makes you wonder if that's really how he died. Deborah remembered that over the months and even years following the disappearance, psychics wrote troubling letters saying the girls' bodies had been dumped here, there, and everywhere. That's why I hate psychics. The families followed every lead. Searchers combed through the Texas brush and explored hundreds of back roads. In 1975, skeletal remains of a girl and a woman were found near San Antonio. For a time, the families thought the wait was over, but those bones had nothing to do with the case. In March 1976, a seer called Fort Worth police from Hawaii to say that the girls' bodies could be found near an oil well. For some reason, was it? Wait, Anadarko? For some reason, searchers focused on the area around Rising Star, a small community near Abilene. But nothing was found except oil wells. That same year, an oil company employee discovered human bones in a bog near Houston. The swampy landscape was dotted with oil derricks. The discovery led nowhere until the spring of 1981, when more bones were discovered in that same bog, and a massive search was launched. Skeletal remains of 3 girls were found, but not these girls. I mean, what are the odds of that? You know, you find you find skeletal remains of 3 girls, and it's 3 different girls. And I don't know if you guys heard, but remember the bones that were found in the... I made a post on the Daniel Robinson case, the guy that was missing part of his arm. He seemed to be stalking a girl based on the text messages, and he would just show up. And then his car crashed. Those bones that were found 2 miles from where his car was, they weren't his. I mean, it just shows you, I've said it many times, there are so many bones out there. And also the Maura Murray bones, those weren't hers either. So, there you go. But they weren't those girls. Rachel's mother, Fran Langston, pasted every newspaper article in a scrapbook. Deborah and Rusty read and reread the clippings. They talk late into the night. Rusty's childhood interest has developed into a zealous preoccupation. Tommy's letters hold particular interest to him. He is certain that Rachel did not write that letter. He is just as sure that Rachel, and only Rachel, is alive, and that is the only matter of time, perhaps even days, before he finds her. So only she's alive. Why would that be? In December, he announced 25,000. Let me see what's on the next page. So back there they have that. Well, this isn't an old picture, I don't think, though. Or maybe it is. Let's see. Built in the mid-'60s, not far from where 3... Okay, so maybe right back in that tall building is where their car was parked. Thank you, Bronco fan Amber. I'm going to move on to the next article. And here's this one's from 2001. Just a single article here. Thank you, Bronco fan. Yes, I got rid of the vacation mode. You know, I was getting kind of... I didn't like the music. I don't know. We'll figure something else out, but... In the meantime, if you guys would just like to help the channel out, super chats are really the only things that work here, and channel memberships. The myth that people think out there, they believe that videos just really rake in this money on ads. It's just not true at all. You have to have a viral video. I actually got rid of the entire scene. I just went like this. Delete. Yeah. So there you go. Hey, thank you, LM and Bronco fan Amber. Yeah. All right. But hold on, I got to go use the facilities here. I can tell. I mean, I'm starting to feeling like, I got those 2 shots. My brain. But hold on a second. I'll play you guys some of that music again. All right, this is the break music. there you go. All right. Oh, wait. Hey, thanks, Alice Patak. Wow, very cool. Very cool. Thank you very much. Wish they had like Push It, you know. Remember that song Push It? I used to like that one. Dun, 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 yeah. Yeah, a couple of these other cases come up are pretty crazy. So let me just bust through this one. And then there's a couple more. Oh, you know what I could do though? Why don't I just skip over to the... Let's go to the 2017 one. Thank you, Kathy Freidenmaker. All right. So this is in 2017. In her living room, 79-year-old Fran Langston keeps a flowery picture frame holding a photograph of her daughter Rachel, right here. Now she probably will never be more than an old photograph or wisp of memory. Huh? I don't know about that. On Saturday, it will have been 43 years since Rachel Trlica, 17, Lisa Renee Wilson, 14, and Julie Moseley, 9, disappeared from what was then Seminary South Shopping Center. The case shocked Fort Worth and left the families to painfully adjust to life without their children. Thousands of leads have been followed, dozens of searches completed, and hundreds of people interviewed. All proved fruitless. I really don't believe they're alive, Lisa's father, Richard Wilson of Fort Worth, said in a recent interview with Star-Telegram. I would like to think otherwise. It's been so many years. The mothers of both Lisa Renee Wilson and Julie Moseley died in the past 2 years without ever knowing what happened to their daughters. But Rachel's brother, Rusty Arnold, of Edgecliff Village, believes a break in the case could come soon. He was just 11 when the girls went missing on December 23rd, 1974. I have a theory, and I have been working on it, Arnold said in an interview with the Star-Telegram. I'm just not at liberty to release anything at this time. He has dedicated his life to the search for his sister and her friends. If only you knew what it would mean for us to hold up our heads, mend our broken hearts, and be able to say, it's all been a bad dream. The girls left home before noon that morning and stopped at an Army-Navy store to pick up Christmas presents that were on layaway. Then they headed to the shopping center, which is now La Grande Plaza, 4200 South Freeway, and parked Trlica's Oldsmobile on an upper-level parking lot near Sears. Rachel had asked others to go shopping, but only Julie and Renee made it that day. Rachel was a newlywed, having married Tommy Trlica in July of that year. Renee wore red and white sneakers and a pale yellow-green T-shirt with Sweet Honesty on it. In 2009 interview with Star-Telegram, Rayanne Moseley of North Richland Hills said her daughter called begging to go with Rachel and Renee because she didn't have anyone to play with that day. That's the 9-year-old. I knew Renee and her family, so I finally decided the girls would be able to watch over Julie, and I let her go, Rayanne Moseley said in 2009. Witnesses told police they saw the girls inside the shopping center during the day. Investigators believe the girls returned to the car during the afternoon. What if that's something they did? Like they brought they didn't want to keep lugging around their items, so they put the items in the vehicle, and then they went and did something else. You know, maybe it wasn't really an abduction at the vehicle itself. Maybe it was something like they wanted to hang out more at the mall, and they put the stuff in the car, then went back in there, and then somebody else enticed them somewhere. I mean, it's hard to, you know. Thank you, Kelly Snyder. Yeah, it was hard to know the answer to that question. Witnesses told police they saw the girls inside the shopping center, and there was no surveillance back then. Witnesses told police they saw the girls inside the shopping center during the day. Investigators believe the girls returned to the car during the afternoon. The families have heard several stories about what happened after that. A witness reported some men hustle the girls into a pickup. Another witness said he'd seen a man forcing a girl into a van. Nothing has ever panned out. The Oldsmobile was found at 6 p.m. on December 23rd, 1974, right where they left it, locked with a with presents plural inside. The dads of those girls went down to that shopping center armed with shotguns, guarding that car. They didn't want anything to happen to it. Langston said she dragged Arnold to the shopping center, entered every store, and asked the manager to make an announcement to see if the girls were there. Police at first believed the girls had run away. Several family members have said, many family members believe that hurt the case. Oh yeah, because they thought they ran away. That always does. Because of the delay in investigating the matter as a kidnapping. How in the hell would they ever have thought that with a 9-year-old? Yeah, the 9-year-old ran away? Give me a break. She just wanted to go, and she, the information that the 9-year-old's mom would have said, oh yeah, well she called really excited because she didn't want to stay at home alone. Now you think she just ran away now? Yeah, no. That's just really dumb. The morning after the girls disappeared, a letter arrived at Rachel and Tommy's home in Fort Worth. It seems like this is kind of like going a little bit like with that two articles ago. The name Rachel was written in an upper left corner of the envelope. No city name existed on the postmark, and only a blurred zip code. Now they're calling it the zip code. 76083. The 10-cent stamp had been canceled the morning of December 24th, 1974. Yeah, so... yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was in the paper where they found the vehicle, but if it was sent early in the morning the very next day, and it wasn't in the paper till the afternoon that the Oldsmobile was found, then you can... well, it sounds to me that Rachel wrote this letter. That's what they believe. And so that means that somebody forced her to write that. Except if she was forced to write it, why would she not put Tommy instead of Thomas? Right? The letter stated that the girls had gone to Houston and would return in about a week. It also gave directions to Trlica's car in the shopping center. Wow. So really, it actually pointed out where the car was in the parking lot. Rusty Arnold believes the letter was mailed in the Throckmorton, Texas area. Now let's see where that is. Oh, this tiny little town. Wow. Oops. My other window. Let me see how far away that is. Just generally. It's like 120 miles away. Probably 130 driving it. No, it says right there. Throckmorton, Texas area, which is about 127 miles northwest of Fort Worth. Some family members don't believe the girls wrote it. Somebody has to have known what happened to those girls, said Sandy Hackham of Fort Worth, Julie Moseley's aunt. Her sister, Ray Ann Moseley, was Julie's mother. It's such a terrible shame. You see, somebody stole them, and we never saw them again. The Arnold family and the Thomas Trlica went their separate ways. Trlica remarried, that's Rachel's husband, had other children and lives on the Texas coast. But Rusty Arnold has kept up the search, helped by other family members, of the girls' friends and strangers. They've searched creeks in Mansfield, a swampy bayou near Port Lavaca, dug at dozens of locations. Arnold created a website of missingtrio.com. Oh, I wonder if that's still there. I don't see it. And a Facebook page in the hope of finding answers. At least 7 private investigators have been involved. One of them, Dan James, put up a $25,000 as a reward to be paid from his own pocket for the arrest and conviction of the people responsible. Please send them home. Please dry all of our tears. If you only knew what it would mean to mend our hearts. I really miss my sister, Arnold said in an interview with the Star-Telegram. I will keep looking for answers as long as it takes. All right. So then there's these last two in August 2021. These ones have a little bit of a twist going on here, and it's pretty interesting. All right. So this one says Carla Walker siblings were able to talked directly to their sister's killer in court on Tuesday, minutes after he pleaded guilty to murdering the 17-year-old in, look at the year, 1974. And I actually have the entire Walker. Here, let me show you some of the. Well, I don't know if I'm going to do the Carla Walker case, but well, let's see if we want to do that. That's crazy. I mean, it's really nuts what's going on here, so hold on. This is 2021. All right, there we go. Carla Walker's siblings were able to talk directly to their sister's killer in court on Tuesday, minutes after he pleaded guilty to murdering the 17-year-old in 1974. One of the primary messages they had for Glenn McCurley was this: if you have killed others, speak up now. Jim Walker is certain McCurley, who has lived in Fort Worth since 1972, must have attacked other women. This is my theory, my opinion. I have no facts to support it, Walker said. But I believe he has, if not killed other women, I believe he has raped other women. Kim, we'll just call him Kim D., an assistant Tarrant County criminal district attorney, was one of the prosecutors in McCurley's case. After the trial, she told reporters she is also concerned about the possibility of other victims. There are boxes of cases of murders from the 70s that if we could get the money to start testing those things, we might know if he did others. Criminology experts said multiple aspects of McCurley's crime are indicators of a possible serial assaulter or killer. McCurley's is 78, has only been convicted of killing Carla. Fort Worth police did not respond to questions about whether he is a suspect in other cases. Rusty Arnold, whose sister is one of 3 girls who went missing in Fort Worth in 1974, the same year, said he has reason to believe that Fort Worth police are comparing McCurley's DNA to DNA found on a letter in his sister's case. Interesting. Remember that? Because there was a letter, and then it would be somebody would have licked the envelope. Widely known as the Fort Worth. The guy actually seems pretty promising, and not just for those. Okay, let me show you something. I actually looked up all the places that McCurley lived, and here's one of the places he lived. He also lived right there, and he lived in, let's see, I don't know what year he lived there, but look how close that is to, you remember the other Fort Worth case that we talked about? Let's see, this is Cindy Heller case. Look how close this guy lived to all of these. And so that whole, remember we went and did this whole thing with all these other cases and blah, blah, they're not solved yet. Well, how do we know this guy didn't do it? I mean, we're talking about, 1974, if he was 78 now, he would have been, what is that? 40, 50, that's like 47 years ago. He would have been 29-ish, let's say. And then he'd be 39. And that's still serial killer heaven age, right? They're all like, 35 is kind of like the average. And so he would have been in the area during the time of all of these other people. And look at that, including these 3 girls. I mean, the MO is a little different, but maybe the goal was actually for Rachel, and the other 2 girls were just there. And it could have even been the 14-year-old. The 9-year-old was just the one that was out of luck. Like that wasn't, well, that's not the right wording. I mean, the 9-year-old wasn't his MO, and maybe she was just killed. But see, we've gone over all of these, like in the last month or so. Tons and tons of Fort Worth murders. And then these 3 popped up. And then you've got this McCurley guy who's lived here the whole time. I mean, it's unreal. Like, he lived right there, and there was another spot right here. So look at this one. He lived right here even. So he's almost like surrounding. You got boom, boom, boom. I mean, if I was going to draw a line on where he lived, he's here, here, and here. Let's just do that for fun. I mean, it's not really that fun, but yeah, so look at that. Look where he lived. And all of these are just outside of where, like a little, that triangle. See? Like, you wouldn't want to do it inside of it. So it's interesting. And you have this one that kind of creeps inside there, but that was just an address. I don't know, man. I think he definitely might have something to do with a whole bunch of these. And there he is right there. Fort Worth Missing Trio, that's what they were commonly known as. Arnold emphasized he does not believe McCurley is the person responsible for the disappearance of his sister Rachel Trlica and Lisa Renee Wilson and Julie Ann Moseley, who went missing while on Christmas shopping. DNA found on Carla's clothing linked McCurley to her murder and led to his arrest in September 2020, and I'm sure they used forensic genealogy on that one. The manner in which McCurley killed Carla Walker indicates a possible pattern of a repeat rapist or killer. This is certainly a pattern of someone that has the characteristics of someone who could reoffend. See, this is what I say like about the Delphi case. Like I've said, that guy is a serial killer-like person. That's what I think. McCurley, a 31-year-old man from Midland, and Carla, a 17-year-old. So he was 31 in 74. And look at that. Carla was 17. Well, that's how old Rachel was. McCurley was out drinking and driving around Fort Worth that night. Oh, man. I mean, that's exactly... how many of those other ones were similar to that, right? And he attacked Carla and her boyfriend as they sat in a parked car outside a bowling alley. He kidnapped her, raped her, beat her, strangled her, and dumped her body in a culvert. We covered that case, by the way. The Carla Walker case. That's one that we covered because when they made this arrest, we went through the whole thing and we're talking about it. But see, that's what's interesting when you have a channel like this one, where we've gone through all these other Fort Worth murders, and now there's this little nexus thing where they're kind of coming back perhaps on each other, right? Because we covered, remember, I don't know how many were watching that night, but this is the culvert she was found in, right here. There's a culvert that goes under the road, like right around in here somewhere. I think there's a pipe. Yeah, there it is, right there. So she was found in there. And, we covered that. I mean, I think that was, let me see when this would have been. Hold on. I'll tell you. It was September 22nd, 2020. So, over a year ago. See, this is the folder that I have on it. Let's see. We went all the way back in, I think even to 1961, because he came up in there. Glenn Samuel McCurley, 18. Let's see. 3 men were named on felony charges filed in court. Fred D. Robinson, 32, addressed as 520 Mulberry Street. Glenn Samuel McCurley, 18, address listed as Westview Boys Home. So he was from a boys' home. McCurley is being held in jail in Colorado City. 104th District Attorney Tom Todd said he is accused of theft of another car at Colorado City. And so he's just not a good human. He's a monster. He's all over the place. So you can always go back and watch that episode. Hold on. Looks like I lost my... place. There we go. Jim Walker urged anyone with information about a crime they believe to be connected to McCurley to reach out to Fort Worth police. Well, we just covered a whole bunch of them. Now that Carla is taken care of, so he strangled people. I think if you went back to those other cases, you'd see there might be some similarities there. I almost feel like doing that on another night, like somehow taking that Carla case, looking what the MO was, and then comparing it to those other Fort Worth women 10 years later. And there's even another case, I think it was like 78. Because I was thinking, well, he wouldn't wait 10 years, right? He'd got to have something. Several unsolved killings in the 1970s and 80s have similarities to Carla's murder. 2 women were strangled in 70s, the months of February, just as Carla was. Becky Martin was a Tarrant County junior college student. Do we have Becky Martin here? Let's see. Yeah, right there. See? There's one of the ones that we talked about. Becky Martin. Crazy. Yeah. Actually, I had these ones turned off. Mildred May. She's 1967, so probably not that one. But Julie Fuller, right up here. So these are all of the Fort Worth. Look at that. I mean, those include where they were found, where they lived, and everything. But definitely, he's in that time frame there. Becky Martin was a Tarrant County junior college student and was abducted from the college on February 7th, 1973, 1 year and 10 days exactly before Carla's murder. Martin's skeletal remains were found weeks later in a culvert. Wow, see, she was found in a culvert as well. In West Fort Worth, according to Fort Worth Police cold case records. Do we have that? I don't know. I didn't have a culvert for that one, but on February 18th, 1977, the body of a 25-year-old June Ward was found lying next to the curb in the 1000 block of West Fuller. Do I have that one? I wouldn't be shocked. Yep, there it is. June Ward, right there. Man, tell you what, you didn't want to live in Fort Worth. Look at that one's inside that one triangle that I made off that other case. So there's another body inside of that. How weird is that? Wow. And see another case with a vehicle found somewhere else. Like her vehicle was found there, her body's found right there. And see, you guys get to know all about it beforehand. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to have it in this article. We already knew, but I'm glad that they're putting it in there. I guess we needed to be reminded of those. God, is there a whole bunch more from there? Man, look at all those Fort Worth. Alright. South. She had been strangled. Her car was found at 4800 Freeway, according to Fort Worth case records, and police believe she had gone to look for help after she had car trouble near a parking lot. The case was reopened in 2011, but it's still unsolved. In her victim impact statement during McCurley's sentencing, Cindy Stone, Carla's sister, looked down at McCurley from the witness stand and told him the decades-long pain he caused her family. I just ask you, if you have done this to anybody else, confess, she said, because you have nothing to lose, and you have no idea what you're doing to other families and your family, and it needs to end now. Fort Worth has nearly 1,000 cold cases. Wow. Hey, Fort Worth, you need to get your act together, okay? 1,000 cold cases back to 1954, okay? That's not that long ago. 1,000. Ridiculous. They need to have a website and put every one of them on it. And I'll go through them. Alright, well, that one's done. You know that every time I start a show, my sub count drops by 8 or so? Like, what happens? Like, notice how it's stuck at 67, 9, 20 something? Like yesterday it was 67, 9, 28. As soon as you go live, it goes to 67, 9, 22. Then tomorrow morning it'll probably be at 67, 9, 28. It doesn't move, alright? But if you're out there, everybody, make sure to, let's get other people to watch. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I get hurt so badly by not covering the really popular cases every single night. Okay? But the problem is, as you can see, a lot of the freaks actually like watching the really popular stuff every single night, right? Because I have 600 and some odd channel members. And we have 219 people watching, and I started the show at 5 o'clock. And that's pretty much available in the entire country, maybe not in other countries right at that time. Right, but everyone covers those, but I would cover it better than they do. The difference is other cases need stuff too. You know, that's the difference. Yeah, when I cover one of those bigger cases out there, I don't know every little tiny, like I don't really care sometimes about, you know, oh my God, his sister's name is Mindy and she likes to skateboard over at the, you know, I don't really care about every thing like that. If they seem meaningful, I'll keep it in my mind somewhere. But I just go over the main facts, and it seems like whenever we do that, we're able to get to a really much more accurate theory than you hear on these other channels who literally give voice to an arm coming out of a flower bed and discuss it, you know, to even like if you're doing it just to joke about it, that's great. But if you even give it a moment's pause where you're allowing people to kind of like go over it for a while, and that means that you're doing the wrong thing, because that's something that's so obvious. You really think there's an arm coming out of a flower bed, that somehow there's this person perhaps breathing through a straw, waiting to hear a sign of another human, perhaps offering a payday or a Snickers bar, and that's when the hand comes up through the dirt in a grasping motion. Then the Snickers is laid down and the hand clamps on it, and then slowly pulls its way back through the dirt. Okay. Of course, I never talk about, like, how does he eat, though, with all that dirt around his head? He's got to breathe through the straw. So, yeah, we'll work on that later, but... And then why do that, though? You know? Why would you put somebody... How long would he have to stay on his back underneath that flower bed? You know? That's a long time to be sitting there. See, that's right up there with the morons who did the milk study. You know, listen, everybody, I'm not kidding you. Go to the store and buy a gallon of milk. It's really cold. What I want you to do is go home, and I want you to stick your face on that. And you just tell me how long you could do it. I mean, you could easily die from hypothermia. I mean, yeah. See, that's when you got to realize that you're listening to clowns. Now, if you're there to listen for entertainment value only, go have a great time. If you're going over there to these channels to try to actually figure something out with some reasonable mind, you know, like thoughts and processes, then, wow, you're going to turn out to be a lunatic just like them. All right, now go ahead and hit that super chat button right now. Yeah. Oh, is it 2:50? Wow. Okay, so that's how many hours? You guys how many hours are you ahead? 8, Susan? Are you 8 hours ahead? Oh, yeah, there's definitely a bunker down there. Yeah, they've just got this little hole in the dirt. What's there? What are you talking about? It's there, somebody said. Now, there's no bunker. Only idiots thought that there was a bunker underneath the flower bed. To give it a moment's thought means that your brain isn't functioning correctly. Well, a moment's thought, you're okay? A moment's thought. But if you ever sat, wow, so how would that do? Let me think. So they put a bunker and then he... Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely bomb shelters out there. Yeah, those exist. I lived in one. The house we lived on Dosh Road, the basement was a bomb shelter. Yeah. So, yeah, they exist, but that has nothing to do with a bomb shelter underneath a flower bed. Only idiots discussed that and thought it was real, okay? And you should be ashamed of yourself for ever spending time talking about it, okay? Right. Let's just be honest. Yeah. I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any bunkers. I don't know what you're talking about, Brianna Banana. I don't live in Florida. I live in Oregon, and we had a house that had it was like a bomb shelter. I don't know what the hell it was, but aquifer bunker. Anyways, I'm going to move on now. I'm going to do this other one. It's another case in Fort Worth, believe it or not, and in 1974, but it's not related. And it's actually a solved case, but I wanted to... It just was such a... I don't know, it was so shocking that I felt like I needed to discuss it, if you guys don't mind. Hey, thank you, Sandra Holford. Time for lunch over there? That's right, you guys, 2 hours shifted because what you guys did was you had daylight savings time, but it went the other direction. So you guys actually made up 2 hours. So normally it's 7 hours. Well, not normally. Half the year it's 7 and half the year it's 5 or whatever the time zone you're in. It was crabgrass. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Listen, why are we talking about tunnels and stuff? Wait, look. There was nothing in the laundry's yard. In fact, over time, I think people are going to probably find out, yeah, there wasn't really much going on there. I think he just kind of took off and didn't say anything. You know? And they were kind of secret, not saying anything because it was their son, and they didn't know where he was, but then they started to worry about him when he didn't come back to the vehicle that they saw and left there. All right, and it's just, I mean, that case has been over for so long, and all we're waiting for is a final report or something, and it's still, people are still talking about it on a daily basis. Now, we don't have vacation, Rita. I got rid of it. We'll do something else at some point. Oh yeah, the Disney tunnels, yeah. I'm just talking about the ones in the yard. Alright, here we go. Here we go. Three women. I don't have any pictures of any of these people. But 3 women and 2 small children were found bound and stabbed to death about 7:20 a.m. today at 12:34. So we'll go get this all in there. this is at 12:34. Oh man, something just happened over there. What happened? Oh, there it is. 12:34. Bahama Drive, Riverside Village. Actually, that's all I did. Is that right there? Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, like in this apartment complex. It's not really like right in Fort. It's kind of on the edge of it. Police said rags and clothes had been stuffed into the mouths of the 3 women, all sisters, who were nude and had been raped. I mean, this is one of the... It's just absolutely insane right here. Listen, 3 women and 2 small children were found bound and stabbed to death. Police said rags and clothes had been stuffed into the mouths of the 3 women, all sisters, who were nude and had been raped. Alexander Small, a relative of one of the women, identified the victims as Laura McClendon, 22, and her 2-year-old son Steve, Martha McClendon, 24, and her 2-year-old daughter Natoshi, and Linda McClendon, 18. Small said all the victims lived at the apartment except Linda, who lived in another apartment within the Southeast Side complex. It's one of the worst situations I've ever seen, said County Medical Examiner Dr. Felix Gwowdz. I don't even know how to say that name. No idea. Gwowzdz. Okay. They all had been brutally assaulted. The oldest 3 ladies were assaulted criminally in other ways. He said they had been mutilated. Their hands were tied behind their backs. He also said that the 2 children had not been criminally assaulted, but they were bound and stabbed to death. It looks like a typically sexually oriented situation, he said. Homicide Lieutenant Oliver E. Ball said a butcher knife was found lying near 2 of the bodies. 3 of the victims were found in one bedroom, the other 2 in another bedroom. Ball said the 2 children were fully clothed, but the women were nude and gagged with pieces of rags, washcloth, and cloths over. Ball said it looked like quite a struggle. Ball said late this morning there were no suspects in the multiple slaying. We won't know any more until after the autopsy, he said. Said he had not yet determined the time of death. Neighbors reported hearing someone knocking at the door of the apartment at 1 a.m. today. We heard someone bamming on the door. They bammed quite a while, said a woman who lives across from the... And I think... Let's see. You know, here's one of the things I was going to say was... I don't know what race they are, but they could be, I haven't seen pictures of them, but I think they might be black. And the reason you wouldn't have heard about a story, it was in the paper a lot because it was so devastating, but it didn't make a bigger splash because of that. And that's just the reality of it. She said she did not see or hear anything after that. A man who lives above McClendon's apartment said he heard a loud knocking from an apartment about 1:15 a.m. I heard a knocking. It sounded like it was coming from under my daughter's bedroom, the man said. I don't know what race they are, though. I have no idea. The reason I was thinking that, because it kind of seemed like it was a, like when I was just looking, this is outside the apartment complex, and most of the people here are black. There are some white people. So I don't know 100% sure, but Now this guy right here, man, that looks like, you know what that looks like? It looks like the picture that Beholder has. This guy's face right there. Can you guys see that? Look at that. It's really weird. Right there. That one just sort of popped out at me. I was trying to figure out what the hell I was looking at there. Yeah. Small said he discovered the bodies when he arrived at the apartment about 7:20 a.m. to take the women to a rent company where he said both he and the women worked. He said the women were not waiting for him, and there was no answer when he knocked on the door, which was locked. Small indicated that he got a neighbor youth to crawl in one of the windows and open the front door and let him in. Oh boy. That poor kid had to see something. Three women, 2 children found slain. The bodies of 3 young women and 2 small children were found Tuesday in a blood-spattered apartment. Authorities said the women had been raped and children bound and stabbed. It's the worst situation I've ever seen, said medical examiner Felix Woods. The 2 children, a boy and a girl, were not sexually molested. Okay, so that's a similar article as the last one. Thank you, Beholder. Education fund started for son of slain mother. An education fund was started today for Terrace McClendon, the preschool age son of Linda McClendon, stabbed to death with 4 other persons early Tuesday morning. The fund was opened with $20 from Elder Roscoe Sanders, who have been working with Operation Get Involved for Better Community. Early Tuesday, Linda McClendon, 18, and her cousin Laura McClendon, 22, and Martha McClendon, 24, were found bound and stabbed to death at an apartment at 1504 Bahama Drive. Laura's 2-year-old son Steve and Martha's 2-year-old daughter Natasha were also found stabbed to death in the apartment. Police said that because Linda did not live with her cousins but resided at another nearby apartment, her son Terrace was at home escaping the multiple slayings. Wow, man, pretty fortunate. Okay, hold on. I think now we're in 1975 here. So, anyways, an arrest was made in that case at a later date. A guy named Kenneth Granville. Okay, so now we get to read and sort of look at what a monster this guy is. Mrs. Everline Gold, first witness in the Kenneth Granville capital murder trial and relative of 5 persons he is accused of stabbing to death, testified Friday. She discussed the killings with Granville a few days after she found the bodies. She said she did not know that Granville, who had pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity to the charges, was to emerge as a prime suspect in the 5 murders. I told him how I'd found them, the bodies of the sisters, cousins, and 2-year-old children, and how they were tied up, Miss Gold said of her discovery October 8th of the bodies in an apartment. That's weird. So he was told about that. Makes you wonder. He didn't act surprised, she said. He asked me, did the police find any fingerprints or anything? And I said no. And we talked about the 2 Mexicans the police initially had jailed as suspects. Granville said she testified, told me that the police had the person in jail who did it, that nobody would use a knife like that but a Mexican. Granville, 25, is on trial in the 213th District Court on charges of murder, that he murdered Natasha McClendon, 1 of the 5 persons killed in the apartment. Later he was to stand trial for murders of Natasha's mother. In a sometimes inaudible voice, Mrs. Gold told how she'd gone to Laura and Martha McClendon's apartment in the Riverside Village complex at 7:15 October 8th with her mother and stepfather. When no one answered the door at apartment 1234, she testified her stepfather, Alexander Small, helped her through a window, and she saw 3 of the 5 bodies in a quick search of the bedrooms. Man, how freaking scary would that have been? I went to the phone, she testified. I tried to call the police. I picked up the phone, but I couldn't dial it. She said she let Mr. and Mrs. into the apartment and Small summoned officers to the scene. Dickens bore down on her about her relationship with Granville, whom she said she'd known for 2 years before the murders, and with whom she testified she had spent the night. You were his girlfriend, Dickens said. No, she said quickly. The night you spent the night with him, about a week after the murders, was there anything unusual about the way he acted? No, Mrs. Gold said. He acted like Kenneth. Like he's always acted, quiet. She testified Granville had seen her almost daily for several months, and that Granville knew all the 5 persons he is charged with stabbing to death. Yeah, so they found a fingerprint from Kenneth Granville's left hand was found in the Riverside Village apartment where 5 persons were killed last year, but police never used it to track him down. It was never connected to Granville until his arrest, was it? Defense attorney Charles Dickens asked police identification technician. No, sir. The print from Granville's left little finger was found on a piece of paper inside a Cracker Jack box in apartment 1234 at 1504 Bahama Drive soon after the bodies of 3 adult women and 2 2-year-old children were found stabbed to death. Dickens noted that anyone who has been in the military or been arrested has his fingerprints on file with the FBI. Yeah, so it just, let me get down to Granville confession is entered as evidence. Kenneth Granville told police 5 persons were killed a year ago after I got this urge. See, this was the part that I wanted you guys to just see. This is what these guys are, you know. They're freaking psycho, serial killer wackos. And this, they just want to do, they know it's wrong, but they do it anyways because they've got urges. Kenneth Granville told police 5 persons were killed a year ago after I got this urge to have sex with Laura McClendon. The woman, 2 of her sisters, and 2 young children were killed, Granville said in a written statement that was introduced in his murder trial. Judge Tom Cave permitted prosecutors Tolly Wilson and Jack Strickland to introduce the confession that detailed the deaths of the 5 people in the apartment. Granville is on trial for his life in connection with the stabbing deaths of Natasha McClendon. 2. The confession was introduced over objections of court-appointed defense attorney Charles Dickens and Frank Sullivan. I think the first time I stabbed Natasha, she was on the floor between the bed and the dresser. I picked her up and threw her on the bed, and I stabbed her some more. Granville also said in the 4-page confession that after killing 4 persons, he again talked to Laura McClendon. All this time, Laura was on the floor. She never was on the bed. Then I went over and stabbed Laura in the back and the chest. Then I asked her if she was dead. She said no. I stabbed her a few more times. I went through their purses, and I took the money out. As a freaking barbarian. Yeah. Sexual urges led Kenneth Granville to kill 7 persons, including the 2-year-old children in a 4-month period. He told police soon after he surrendered. So he killed 2 other people too. Monday, 2 veteran detectives told District Court Judge Tom Cave and the 12 jurors who are to decide in Granville should be convicted of one of those murders of the confession. He didn't want a lawyer. He just wanted to confess, Detective F.D. Ralston testified under examination. In his confession to Ralston and Detective George Hudson, Granville said he bound and gagged 3 women, Laura McClendon, Linda McClendon, and their sister Martha McClendon, and 2 children, Linda's son Stephen and Martha's daughter, Natasha, in the apartment, daughter Natasha, in the apartment in which they lived on October 8, 1974. He raped Laura McClendon twice and Martha McClendon once. Fatally stabbed all the persons in the apartment except Linda McClendon, whom he apparently strangled when she was tied up. Let's see. Raped, stabbed, and beat Betty Williams to death at his apartment February 8th. Fatally stabbed Vera Hill, who came to his apartment as he was assaulting Mrs. Williams. Oh boy. Then terrorized another family, raping a middle-aged woman and her daughter before calling the pastor of the church he sometimes attended and arranging for the minister to accompany him to the police headquarters. Oh, jeez. So this must have been during the year after he killed all of them. The 3 women, 9-man jury in the 213th District Court, heard details of the killings of the 5 persons before the session was adjourned. About 3 hours later, Assistant District Attorney Tolly Wilson read the 5-page statement that Granville signed after telling Ralston about the deaths of the other 2 women. I mean, this guy's one of the worst I've ever heard of. But you'd never heard of him before. It just, I stabbed Vera in the chest. Vera then told me that she had gone to see about something on her income tax. I don't even know what that means. I then stabbed her in the chest, stomach, and back until she fell. Granville is on trial for his life only on the charge that he killed Natasha McClendon, but the jurors were told of the deaths of all 7 persons. Prosecutors Wilson and Jack Strickland will ask jurors about probably late this week to return the death sentence against Granville. I think let's see. Granville told Hudson that he killed Natasha McClendon in a Riverside Village apartment complex because she started hollering and somebody was beating on the front door. I think the first time I stabbed Natasha, she was on the floor between the bed and the dresser. I picked her up and threw her on the bed and I stabbed her some more. Earlier, he had raped 2 women. Had killed Stephen McClendon and Linda McClendon. Then Granville said in the statement entered into court records over the objection of the defense attorney, he went back where Laura was and we sat and talked for a while. We talked about if she was going to marry Bear, and she said no, she was going to marry Stephen's father, Bert. I think this is when I got up and started stabbing Martha. I mean, this guy, listen to this guy. Martha was lying on the bed with her head on the floor. All this time, Laura was on the floor. She never was on the bed. Then I went over and stabbed Laura in the back and the chest. Then I asked her if she was dead. She said no, so I stabbed her a few more times. Granville said in a statement that he was driving around the night of October 8th when he thought of going to the McClendon's apartment. I knew all the McClendon girls, Granville said in the statement. I used to go with the girl's oldest sister, Evelyn. She testified Friday at the trial, as the trial got underway after selection of the jury was completed. Let's see. He said in his statement that he walked to the open front door and was told to have a seat. He said he talked briefly to Laura McClendon. Then I asked her for a drink of water. By then, all I wanted to do was drink the water and leave, but I didn't. I took the glass back into the kitchen. She was wiping off the stove and the little boy. Stephen was over by the kitchen table playing. I had a bone-handled steak knife with me. I had brought the knife with me. I walked behind Laura while she was cleaning the stove and put the knife to her throat. She laughed and thought I was playing. I told her to turn around, that I wasn't kidding. The three went into the bedroom, Granville said, and he ordered the women to tie her son with a phone cord that Granville jerked from the wall. Then I tied her up with a piece of sheet, Granville said. The other three members of the family came in about that time and were all tied up. Ralston said that until Granville came to police headquarters about 10 p.m. February 8th, he had not been considered a suspect in the mass slayings referred to as the Riverside Village murders in the trial. He said Granville and the Reverend Roy Lee Spearman, pastor of Pilgrim's Galilee Baptist Church, came to the police station and asked for a homicide detective. Ralston said he told them that he was assigned to the field and then took Granville into another office. He, Granville, told me that I had better sit down, that I was going to get the shock of my life. He said the defendant took a pistol and a butcher knife from his pockets and placed them on the desk. Granville also asked to talk to Detective Lieutenant Oliver Ball, who was heading the investigation of the mass murders. And it's just, let me get down there. Betty went, she got up and had open. Okay. Ralston and Hudson and Granville led them to the south side of the apartment where the other body, so I guess they took him over there. Let's see, let me read this part. He said Granville and Reverend Roy Lee Spearman, pastor of Pilgrim Galilee Baptist Church, came to the police station. He told me that I had better sit down, and he handed them the gun and the knife. Granville also asked to talk to Detective Lieutenant Oliver Ball, who was heading the investigation of the mass murders, and to an assistant district attorney, Rufus Adcock. The most experienced prosecutor in the DA's office was called, and he also witnessed the confessions. Ralston and Hudson and Granville led them to his south side apartment where the other two bodies were found. In the second statement given police, Granville said Betty Williams came to his apartment, made 3 telephone calls, asked about half a package of cigarettes, and was leaving. She got up and had opened the door, and I had an urge, Granville said in the statement. He said he told her there was a whole package of cigarettes in his bedroom that she could have. Betty went into the bedroom and started opening the drawers of the dresser and asked me where were they. And I headed towards the bedroom and I stopped, trying to keep from going in there. I went to the bedroom door and she was bent over the dresser looking in a drawer. I walked up to Betty and grabbed her and turned her upside down on her head. Betty appeared to be dazed. I removed her pants. Granville said in the statement that after the woman's friend was killed, he raped, stabbed, beat, and left Betty Williams dying. He said he left the apartment, thought about buying a $5 or $6 of gas, and just keep on driving, but wound around instead of the south side until he coming to a friend's house where her mother let him in on the pretense of using the phone. Once in, he raped the older woman, terrorized another of her daughters and her children, then left with the daughter he had gone to see in the first place. He said he took her to the apartment and raped her. Then he had to go back to the bedroom because I heard some more movement in the bedroom, and I went in there. It was Betty again. It seemed as if she was picking at her wounds by putting her fingers in it. I told her to stop it. Her eyes looked like she was dazed, but yet she stopped when I told her to. Then Granville said he and the woman he had assaulted. Oh, yeah. Hey, thank you, Brandy Bradford. Wow, you got pneumonia? How the hell did you get that? I just got my flu and booster shot just today in 2 different arms. Pneumonia, Jesus. It's brutal. Well, I hope you're feeling better. I didn't mean to have such a downer topic to be talking about, but I mean, if you guys really, this guy's one of the worst people I've ever heard just anywhere. Like, you know, at least some of these other serial killers aren't killing little 2-year-old kids at the same time, right? I mean, not that that's some wild benefit. Yeah, well, just keep resting. And thank you very much. Then Granville said he and the woman he had assaulted left together, picked up Reverend Mr. Spearman, and they went to the police station. So isn't that wild? I told her to stop it. Her eyes looked like she was dazed, but yet she stopped when I told her to. Then Granville said he and the woman he had assaulted left together, picked up Reverend Mr. Spearman, and then went to the police station. The 2 men went inside, and the woman was told to take the car to the Riverside Village complex where Granville had lived at the time of the 5 murders. The Reverend Mr. Spearman was the last witness called before the state rested. Under cross-examination by the defense, he said Granville told him on the way to the police station that he wanted to be taken out of society, that he didn't. I mean, what's kind of interesting about this guy is he did seem to realize that he was a monster. I mean, that doesn't mean, oh, wow, he's great. But it's interesting, you know? I mean, he realized it beforehand. Like, he didn't get caught. He turned himself in after, like, that total rampage he was doing right there. I mean, he's a psycho wacko, but it's kind of interesting that he actually realized who he was, right? I mean, he realized he's a monster. I mean, I guess you could give him, if you're going to give him any kind of a bonus point, there's one. I would have to say that he was sane when he was sitting in my church. So that's what they're asking the pastor. The Reverend Mr. Spearman was the last witness called. Under cross-examination by the defense, he said Granville told him on the way to the police station that he wanted to be taken out of society, and this is before he was arrested or anything, and he didn't want to kill any more innocent people. The preacher said he thought that a question asked by Dickens about Granville's sanity had to be answered in 2 parts. I would have to say that he was sane when he was sitting in my church. But I would have to say that anyone who commits crimes like these, there has to be something wrong somewhere. Yeah, that's right. Or they're just an evil person, right? Ralston said Granville seemed to get excited only when I didn't understand what he was trying to say. During his talks with him, the night of February 8th and the morning of February 9th, when he was formally arraigned in multiple deaths. The first of the witness defense, he said that when he got home at 3724, said her son had beaten and tried to rape her. Granville was committed to Peter Smith Hospital that day for observation. He said records indicate that he was committed. Wait, let's see. This is the first witness, called former patrolman R.W. Hansen, said that he was called March 22nd, 1967, so 7 years prior, to answer a family disturbance. So here we go. This is like his first foray. He said that when he got to a home at 3724 Charlotte, Granville's mother said her son had beaten and tried to rape her. Granville was committed to Peter Smith Hospital that day, so some lunatic let this idiot out. He said records indicated that he was committed for observation, were admitted to evidence, but there was no mention of the findings or when the then 16-year-old youth. So he started doing that at 16. The trial was abruptly recessed shortly after 4 p.m. All right. Kind of just going through the little bit of the trial there. Do you guys find this one interesting? I do. I like to kind of, figure out what they're thinking. They're so weird. Defense attorneys were moving Tuesday to close their case on the fourth day of Kenneth Granville. Testimony began with Granville's mother. Yeah, we got that. The fact that you saw no major mental illness in Granville in 1969 does not mean that there was none. Probably a defense there. Do you think this man is a dangerous individual? Defense attorney Charles Dickens asked Fort Worth psychologist. I certainly do, May said, explaining that he's given Granville's hours of tests, considers him a paranoid schizophrenia person who is classifiably insane. The testimony of the two experts, witnesses, may determine if the 9-man, 3-woman jury find Granville insane. If found sane, he could face the death penalty. Granville is on trial on the two... Yeah, so we already know that part. Okay. Yep, got that. Yeah, Kenneth Granville today told the jury that will be asked to send him to the electric chair that he killed 7 persons because he could not control himself. Speaking softly and showing little emotions, the 25-year-old defendant said as he was raping and killing, I could see it happening, but there was nothing I could do about it. I remembered seeing it happen, as if I was looking at my own self do all of this, but I couldn't do anything about it. Granville is on trial for the October 7th, 1974 stabbing death of Natasha McClendon. Under questioning by court-appointed defense attorney Charles Dickens, Granville quietly said he could see myself stabbing the little girl I used to play with, I used to buy candy for. Granville is also accused of killing the children's mother, Martha McClendon, and 3 other relatives, Laura, Linda, and Stephen McClendon. 4 months later, Granville said he raped and killed Betty Williams and fatally stabbed Vera Hill in his East Robert Street apartment. Granville told the 9-man, 3-woman jury in Judge Tom Cave's court that he confessed to police after the 2 women were killed. He also said that he told officers questioning him that they can kill me or give me help and I'll still mean it. Granville has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Let's see. Once there, he said he wanted to have sex with Laura. I was trying to shake that off. It wasn't right. I went into a sweat. So he testified here. I went into a sweat. I was shaking, trembling. Something said move and something said stay. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't. My mind was almost blank. I could see this happening, but there was nothing I could do about it. No, there really was. Granville said that about midnight, after raping 2 of the women and killing the 5 persons, he went home and went to bed. While talking about the mass slaying with a friend the next morning, Granville said the fact that he had killed them started dawning on me. I just couldn't believe I had done it. Dickens asked Granville why he could not surrender to police then. I couldn't believe I had done it, Granville answered. He said that A day or so later, he told a friend, "I think I'm the last person to see them alive." Oh, there you go. That in the 19th October, the jury's beginning deliberation, and then we've got Granville convicted gets death for girl's murder. So you got the death penalty. Kenneth Granville was convicted of capital murder today and given the death penalty, which prosecutors had asked a 12-person jury to assess. Granville, 25, who confessed to killing 7 persons, showed no emotion as the unanimous verdict was returned. Cave did not immediately sentence Granville to die in the electric chair. That sentence may come 10 days from now, and the conviction and sentence will be appealed automatically. So there you go. You got the death penalty, and that's him right there. All right. So he killed 7 people. Yeah, and he got executed on, in I think 1976, I think. Yeah, so yeah, that's right. There you go. A man who confessed to killing 7 people, including a 2-year-old girl, by stabbing them with a butcher knife in 2 murderous rampages more than 21 years ago, was executed here this evening. The man, Kenneth Granville, 45, was executed by injection for the fatal stabbing of the girl. He had tied and gagged her and 4 members of her family, then stabbed them all with a butcher knife. Mr. Granville, a former machinist, declined to give a last statement. He was pronounced dead at 6:20 p.m., 8 minutes after lethal drugs began flowing into his arms. Defense lawyers argued that Mr. Granville should not have been executed because he was mentally incompetent and because the state failed to provide for a defense psychiatrist at his trial. He provided for a defense I don't even know that bad wording there. He was tried only for the murders of 2-year-old Natasha McClendon, who was stabbed to death along with the mother. Mr. Granville, a family friend, said he could not stop himself from killing Natasha. I could see it happening, but there was nothing I could do. He surrendered to police on February 8, 1975, after raping a woman and abducting another and holding several people hostage at a house. He later admitted killing 2 female friends who had been raped and stabbed with a knife. Mr. Granville, who spent 20 years and 3 months on death row, was the longest-serving condemned inmate in Texas to be executed. Well, there you go. I wish I felt sorry for the guy, but I don't. Yeah. All right. Well, I thought that was an interesting case because it just shows you that there's these people out there. They know what right and wrong is. So that's where they don't. I don't care what your urge is. It's like, people who take meth or something. It's their fault that they took it. Okay? Because it's like they have an urge. I got to satisfy. And it's their choice to do it, even though it's absolutely horrendous to take, right? Yeah, so I don't give 2 craps that he was executed. I thought it was, a little different than these other barbarians, that he actually turned himself in, realizing for a moment that he was that he was a monster, basically. Like, he literally noticed, and he turned himself in. He got a pastor and went over to the police station and turned himself in. Pretty crazy, huh? Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't pay for anything. At least he got to... Well, here's the thing is, I don't like like, I'm not a big fan of like lethal injections and these kind of things. I think they should be killed in the same way that they killed somebody. And I think that would be a way bigger deterrent for murderers. Okay? And, you know, so if you torture somebody and then you know, start hacking off, you know, whatever you're doing, you should have the exact same thing done in the same order to you. I know that sounds kind of barbaric, but at the same time, isn't that really what an eye for an eye is? Like, why don't we make sure that they have exactly what they did happen to them? And I think you'd see the crime rate drop dramatically. It'd be amazing how many people wouldn't want that kind of shit to happen to them. Hey, Charles O., I saw your comment over there. I don't know why you watch any of that guy's garbage. He's like Charles Manson wannabe. He's an absolute ludicrous person. All right, Charles? Just letting you know. Yeah. So anyways, I think that they should absolutely just do the exact same thing to them. Seriously. And I know it's sort of it sucks. I just wouldn't let people watch it. I would just maybe if a family member wants to take part or something, when people go, oh, we're better than that, we're better. Well, here's what would make it better than that. I mean, aren't we sick of all of the murders that go on? So what if when you catch the person, like I was saying, that the same thing happens to them? So there's two benefits from it. There'd be a lot less murders, or when somebody murdered somebody, at least it would be merciful. You get it? Like, you wouldn't want to kill somebody in a way that there was like torturing, and just look how shitty this was with them. You know, gagged, stabbed multiple times, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I should never do it again, Charles. That guy is a absolute ludicrous human being. He made an entire hit piece video on me one time, and he took it down, and now he's doing one again. I haven't even mentioned the idiot's name. He's just not a good person. Okay? That's the reality of it. All right. All right, so we're going to do one last one here tonight. And this is a cold case as well. Yeah, drawn in quarters. That'd be awesome. Why would Randy tell you to watch any of that shit? God. Anyways, here we go. This is about Kristina Hickey, 1984, in Illinois. And this one isn't that long, but it was to have been a special week for 15-year-old Kristina Hickey of Park Forest. The Rich East High School sophomore performed Tuesday and Wednesday nights with the sophomore choir. So sort of picture, she's just singing the sophomore choir in homecoming concerts, and was looking forward to attending last night's homecoming dance. But she never made it home Wednesday night, and on Friday night her body was found in a clump of bushes in the Park Forest Plaza. That's I gotta do this one. There we go. And this is Park Forest Plaza. Yeah, and where is this? So this is Tinley Park, maybe? There it is. No, that's Park Forest. I don't know. I'll have to look this up. Hold on. It's the Rich East High School. Where's that? Yeah. Yeah, so it's down here. Rich East High School. No, there's hundreds of. I would say there's at least 100,000 cold cases. Yeah, wouldn't that work, Gen H? I mean, it's weird. It's kind of sad and shitty, but it sort of sucks that these absolute barbarians, like, let's say somebody in prison hadn't killed Dahmer, and let's say he was going to be executed or something. Man, should he really just get like a peaceful, what's this bull crap about, it's not constitutional, it's not, what are you talking about? Look what they did. So they should get the same punishment back. And I think, I really do believe that would change things quite a bit, like dramatically, okay?
Gosh, Gray, that's just so closed-minded of you, gee.
Actually, I think it was pretty open-minded. Yeah. Closed-minded is just, it's the same thing, over and over. I want a variety. You get what I'm saying? But she never came home Wednesday night. And on Friday night, her body was found in a clump of bushes in the Park Forest Plaza. See, I can't find that one now. Let me see. Yeah, no. That's not even going to be in the right state. Oh, maybe that's at Forest Park Plaza. Okay, let's just put that one in. Forest Park Plaza. Does that make sense? I mean, are we in the same ballpark here? I don't even know. I don't think so. Well, how many miles is that? Is that reasonable? No, it's only 27 miles. A single stab wound to the chest was the apparent cause of her death. The body was found on Friday at about 5:30 p.m. by two boys who were horsing around just north of Marshall Fields. Marshall Fields is a store, right? In the plaza. I doubt that would still be there. Yeah, it doesn't exist. I don't think that exists. Marshall's is the name that they would normally. So they went home, told their mothers about it. So these two kids found her body. They went home, told their mothers about it, but they didn't believe them. One of the mothers went to the McDonald's restaurant near the plaza. Let's see if there's a McDonald's. Let's see. Oh, there you go. That's probably going to be it. One of the mothers went to McDonald's restaurant near the plaza, but an hour later decided to see if what her son told her was true. She, the mother, alerted Marshall Field security. Alerted Marshall Field security, which in turn notified us. Kristina disappeared Wednesday shortly after performing with the sophomore choir. She called her boyfriend from the school. She told him she'd be home in about 15 minutes and then left, Mrs. Hickey said. But she never arrived. No one is sure of the route she took from the high school, but authorities surmise she walked across. See, I don't know if I got the right place. It looked like it, though, because she couldn't walk there from that high school. Kristina was wearing white dress and beige coat, which would have stood out in the dark. She apparently walked through the Plaza West shopping area. So let's see where Plaza West is. Go south. Yep. Okay. Here we go. Okay. There we go. So this, I'm not in the right spot. So there's another McDonald's near another mall with almost exactly the same name. Plaza West. Okay, so if she was at this high school, that makes sense. All right. Shortly after performing with the sophomore choir at Rich East, her mother, Patricia, said she called her boyfriend from the school, told him she'd be home in about 15 minutes, and then left. No one is sure of the route she took from the high school, but authorities surmise she walked across an open field east of the school building. Kristina was wearing a white dress and beige coat, which would have stood out in the dark, Chief Romano said. But what do you mean east? East is that way. So maybe... Oh, that's right. There's the school building. And there's the soccer. I don't think that's what this is over here. I put the pin in the wrong spot. This is the school. And then she walked across this field. And then apparently this is the mall. So let's see if there's a McDonald's near this place. Yeah, no, there isn't one right there anymore. Maybe there used to be one. I don't know. McDonald's stay around forever, though. So. Kristina was wearing a white dress and beige coat, which could have stood out in the dark. She apparently walked through the Plaza West shopping area, west of Orchard Drive. So now we can get a name of the street here. So this is probably Orchard, maybe. No, it's... Okay, that's Orchard Drive. Okay. White dress and beige coat, which would have stood out in the dark, Chief Romano said. It would have made a good target, and she was wearing high heels. She apparently walked through the Plaza West shopping area, which is west of Orchard Drive, and was walking through the plaza towards her home at 209 Lester, I think it says. 209 Lester Road. Yeah, but why would she... Okay, so she was walking like this. But why did she do that? Why wouldn't she just... 209 Lester Road when she was attacked. Through the plaza towards her home. I don't know why she'd need to walk through that plaza. It seems kind of out of the way, doesn't it? I mean, here's the school. I guess maybe to avoid the lake, you're kind of walking and you go right through there and then cut across. But couldn't you have just walked like this? I don't know. That's not way out of the way, but maybe she was like, went out here and then went like that-ish. I don't know. What do you guys think? Pretty weird. Police yesterday combed the plaza searching for a weapon and other evidence. The search also was to be made along the route. Ms. Hickey notified police at 11:04 p.m. Wednesday that her daughter had not arrived home from the concert. At 9:30 a.m. Thursday, she contacted police again and began telephoning Christina's friends. They reportedly told Ms. Hickey they had last saw Christina about 9:15 p.m. It wasn't like her to be away from home overnight, Ms. Hickey said of her only child. Once a long time ago, she'd got mad at me and took off for a couple of hours, but she'd never taken off overnight. Everything was fine at home. We hadn't been fighting. Her father lives in Florida, but she'd just seen him about a month ago. When she was late, she would call me. She was a good kid. This year she was a soloist with the choir and had performed in the homecoming show on Tuesday night. I went to see her in the show that night, Mrs. Hickey said. Yeah, that sucks. Midlothian man held for murder. A 19-year-old Midlothian youth who attended Christina Hickey's funeral with severe facial injuries and offered condolences to her mother is charged this week with the Park Forest teenager's 1984 murder. Persistent police work and a conscientious Park Forest resident are credited with the latest development in the year-old investigation. Christopher Abernathy, 19, is charged with murder in the stabbing death of the 15-year-old Rich East High School student in October. Police announced Abernathy's arrest Monday after receiving a full statement from the suspect early Sunday morning, police said. Police declined to elaborate on the details of the statement, maintaining the statement is material to the successful prosecution of the case. Police also declined to reveal if Abernathy's statement contains a confession of the murder of the Park Forest teenager who was reported missing the evening of October 3rd, 1984. Her body was discovered in bushes near Marshall Fields. So, we've got an arrest made here. And then 1986. Delay area man's murder. The trial of 19-year-old Midlothian youth charged with 1984 murder of Park Forest teenager was delayed. Jury selection for the trial of Christopher Abernathy was to begin Monday, so it was delayed. Then 1987, rape murder tale vital in case. The man charged with the murder of 15-year-old Rich East High School sophomore attended the girl's funeral and later told a friend about raping her and then stabbing her to death. The statement that the defendant Christopher Abernathy allegedly made to a friend, Alan Dennis, are expected to be among the key pieces of evidence prosecutors will present during Abernathy's trial. Hickey was slain as she was walking home after singing in a homecoming concert at the Park Forest High School on October 3rd, 1984. Her body was found in some bushes near the Marshall Field store in the Park Forest Plaza. Why do they keep saying, maybe it's this thing. That's called the Park Forest Plaza. So maybe like right around in there. Okay. Hickory was slain as she was walking. Abernathy wasn't arrested until more than a year after the slaying, because the murder occurred about 2 months before Abernathy turned 18. The minimum age for the death penalty in Illinois, he can't be sentenced to death if he is convicted. The girl's mother, Patricia Hickey, was the first witness called Tuesday by Assistant State Attorney. She said she last saw her only child at about 6:30 p.m. on October 3rd, just before Christina left for the concert. She testified that when the girl failed to return home that night, she drove her car to the high school in search of her before calling police. When Quinn showed her a blood-stained pink dress, the mother broke down and, through her tears, identified it as the dress Christina wore to the concert. Prosecutors also showed the jury a videotape of the concert taken only hours before the girl was slain. In this opening statement before her injury, Quinn said evidence would also be presented showing that Abernathy approached a newspaper photographer at the girl's funeral on October 9, 1984, and said he planned to fire an M16 rifle during the services. He was questioned by police at that time about the statement, but authorities released him without filing any charges. Police also said Abernathy told them he had once dated Hickey. Frank Rago, an assistant police defender who was representing Abernathy, indicated in an opening statement to the jury that the client's comments at the funeral showed that Abernathy often made statements that weren't true. A Midlothian youth found guilty in rape, stabbing, deaths. So he was found guilty. The attorney for 20-year-old Midlothian man convicted Thursday of the 1984 murder of Park Forest teenager has filed post-trial motions seeking judicial review of the emotional 3-day trial. Christopher Abernathy's mother, who remained dry-eyed through a year of pretrial hearings and last week's trial, began to cry. On the other side of the Markham courtroom, Christina Hickey's mother, who sobbed last week as she identified for the jury the dress her murdered daughter wore the night she disappeared, remained expressionless. Abernathy, who showed little emotion during the trial, remained impassive as Circuit Court Judge Ronald Crane read the verdict. So anyways, he was found guilty, and he got a life sentence. 1987, a Cook County judge told 20-year-old Midlothian man Wednesday that although he normally would be lenient for the first offense, the man's crime was too heinous to merit anything less than a sentence of life in prison without parole. Judge Ronald Crane recounted the rape and murder of 15-year-old Rich East High School sophomore during the sentencing hearing. Prosecutors called no witnesses during the sentencing hearing, but did present a statement from the mother. There is no sentence that will bring my daughter back, but the thought of Abernathy ever being let out of jail to mingle with society and perhaps commit a vicious and brutal attack on anyone else would be more than I could stand emotionally. Okay, so yeah, all that happened. Then in 2015, oh boy, jailed for decades, freed by DNA tests. And that's why we have donated money to the Innocence Project. Okay? Citing DNA evidence, Cook County authorities Wednesday freed a man who spent nearly 30 years in prison for the rape and murder of a 15-year-old girl in the south suburbs, tacitly acknowledging that the true perpetrator has so far escaped punishment. Christopher Abernathy, 48, walked out of Stateville Correctional Center near Joliet after a judge wiped away his conviction for killing Christina Hickey in 1984. Well, guess what, though? If DNA cleared him, then they have DNA to do genetic genealogy. I mean, this is what I actually want to call them and say, what are you guys doing on this? I mean, this is outside the prison where he had been serving a sentence of life without the possibility of, A, Welcome, Darlene Brown. In an exclusive interview with the Tribune after his release, Abernathy said he was happy to spend time with his mother without being limited to 2-hour prison visits. I mean, what a nightmare, you know? It's just... And that's him right there. Look at that. He was innocent that whole time. Had nothing to do with it. They actually took fingernail clippings, you know, from underneath their fingernails and other evidence, and it wasn't his. Hope he gets like a ton of money. Got a ton of money for that. Her body was found in bushes near Marshall Field store 2 days later. People who lived in the park forest at the time said her death became as frightening shock, heightening. And guess what? That guy was still there that whole time. Even though they all were pacified by an arrest and conviction of somebody, and everybody lived comfortably, thinking, oh, it's all good now. Yeah, so this is the 2021 here. On October 3rd, 1984, 15-year-old Kristina Hickey took part in a choral concert at Rich East High School. Afterward, the sophomore called her boyfriend, David Batchelor, from a payphone, telling him that she would be home in 15 minutes. Kristina then left through the rear entrance and began walking to the family home on Lester Road. 2 days later, her brutally beaten body was found in underbrush near the old Marshall Field store in the Park Forest Plaza. Part of her dress was torn. She had been sexually assaulted and stabbed numerous times. It was evident from the disturbed dirt around the body that she had fought for her life. Classmate Sean Hollett, who now lives in Chicago and who sat next to Kristina in geography class, attended attended the movie Purple Rain that day and recalls exiting the Holiday Theater, seeing the flashing lights of police cars illuminating the area. I wonder where that theater is. I bet there was one. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, right there. And so that would be the theater you go in and yes, and then I think it's right here. I think she was probably found right there in here. So this case is open right now. But they should be able to solve it. I mean, I'm expecting to see a newscast or a news release anytime now because they've got her DNA. The crime stunned the community. There were few clues, yet someone or perhaps more than one person knew the terrible details of the crime. At Kristina's funeral, Star newspaper photographer Carol Dorset spoke to 17-year-old who had scratches on his face. The paper reported in 1984. Christopher Abernathy told her he dated Kristina, said he loved her, and said he had an M16 rifle in his car, and said he would fire the weapon at the funeral, the Star reported. When Dorset asked about the scrapes on his nose and lips, Abernathy said he had ran into a tree. So he actually had all these scratches and everything, so he looked pretty suspicious. The newspaper reported, Dorsey told police, who then questioned Abernathy and searched the car, but did not detain him. More than 1 year later, while questioning another teenager on the unrelated crime, McClendon police were told Abernathy confessed to the youth that he killed Kristina, the Park Forest Star reported in 1985. Abernathy was arrested November 29, 1985, and after questioning, defense lawyers said in an appellate court brief it was a 40-hour grilling. Sounds a little bit like CM over there, you know, another false confession. Grilling covering 3 days. He signed a statement admitting his guilt, the Star reported. In law enforcement jargon, this was an open and shut case. His confession and a lie detector test were key parts of the trial evidence, and January 15, 1987, Abernathy was convicted of murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Although authorities kept forensic, I think they meant to just say one of them, kept forensic samples of the crime scene, DNA testing had not come into general use. In 2001, Illinois State Police examined human cells found under Kristina's fingernails, but the results were inconclusive. Over the years, additional testing was done, and in 2014, the Illinois Innocence Project was allowed to get 8 samples of evidence analyzed for DNA matches. The results showed that whatever DNA evidence there was came from 2 unidentified men, according to Illinois Innocence Project. Despite his signed confession and a lie detector test, it seemed apparent Abernathy did not kill Kristina, because that means the DNA they tested had a direct correlation to the killer. For example, semen or blood underneath the finger, like not blood, but skin underneath the fingernails. That day, another of Kristen's classmates, David Benjamin of Homewood, called his sister Donna in Tennessee to wish her a happy birthday. He then added a sarcastic, "Guess what? If Abernathy did not kill Kristina, who did?" Silence is the worst form of injustice. Benjamin is one of a group of 5 who knew Hickey and refused to let the killing fade away. Through the years, Benjamin, his sister Donna Hollett, Renee Morgan, and Dave Sandick of Joliet worked hard to keep the case in everyone's mind. Why? You guys must have thought that guy was innocent, though. Benjamin has compiled a timeline of what he says are similar assaults. Oh, this is since 2015. Okay. Benjamin has compiled a timeline of what he says are similar assaults and homicides in the area. This list includes similar killings in August 1984 of an Oak Park woman, the abduction and sexual assault of a woman from Park Forest Plaza that same month, the killing of a Chicago Heights woman in November 1984, and the 1985 sexual assault and killing of a woman in DuPage County. He also compiled a list of 3 convicted or implicated in murders within a year or 2 of Kristina's slaying. Anyways, that's just, that guy can't get his time back. You know what I mean? But I put that one out there because that one is an open case, and I'm sort of wondering if, maybe I should give identifiers a call and say, hey, have you guys ever checked this one out? Because they obviously have DNA there. She was going from here to here, walked through here, got killed right there. But anyways, you guys, that is going to do it for me tonight. I appreciate you guys showing up tonight. Not sure where, what I need to be covering to get back the same number of viewers that we used to have, but maybe one day. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you guys, and thank you to Lee D, Cassandra Morris, Jessica Schubach, Mary Glaviano, Nick T, Tawny Lee, Linda Howell, Cindy Leon, Sarita, Georgina Stoliker, Lisa Beimler became a channel member, JD, Sandra Turner with a cat eye donation. Those 3 cat eye donations again saved the evening. It would have been one of the worst again. I'm not sure what's going on now, but we even tried the earlier time slot with less viewers. Who the hell knows? Let's see. Bronco fan Amber. I was kind of hoping we were like in this groove where, we're going to be able to keep doing what we've been doing, but we'll figure it out. Bronco fan Amber, LM, and then Alice Patak, Cat Eye, Kathy Friedenmaker, Kelly Snyder, and then we've got Kelly Snyder became a new member. Admiron 4 months. LM, 12 months. Sandra Halford, Beholder, and Brandy Bradford with a cat eye. And then Darlene Brown became a channel member. Lee Taylor became a channel member. So anyways, thank you guys very much. And all the channel memberships also help out too at the end of the month. But I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe. Who knows, Jessica? I don't remember what it was like last year, but who knows? But anyways, I really appreciate everybody for helping out the channel. If you guys can hit that like button on the way out. I guess YouTube's getting rid of the dislike button. Isn't that awesome? For those stupid ass trolls who they don't show it anymore anyways. You can hit it all you want, but you don't get to see your little neat little dislike. Even though it never did anything at all, the dislike button didn't ever hurt anybody. It's an engagement. If you have a channel that has a dislike and nothing else, it's better than if you had just left it blank. Yep. All right. So thank you guys very much. If you guys want to go check out the Discord over there, check it out. All right. But anyways, I got to get going. So thank you guys very much. We will see you guys tomorrow. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. And yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person. Yeah, that is a dumbass
crime
clown.
dissector.
That's right, Georgina.
I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Green is gonna give another lecture.
Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a protector, full deflector, interceptor.
And I mean a specter with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've a temple fucking check ya. I have no agenda, I'm a pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender.
Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you.
Collaborate and listen. That's a back with a brand new invention. Something grab a hold of me tightly. Flows like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights. I'll glow to the extreme. I rock the mic like a vandal. Light up the stage and with a chump like a candle. Dance. What's as big as a boom? Killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly. Wanna play a dope melody? Anything less than the best is a felony. Love it, leave it, better game way. Better hit moves or to get down play. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook when my future revolves it. Now that the party is jumping, with the bass kicked in and the bangers are pumping, break to the point, cause the point no faking. Cooking MCs like a pound of bacon, burning them, be quick and nimble. Go crazy when I hear the cymbal with a hi-hat, with a souped up tempo. My roll, time to go solo, rolling in the 5.0 with a rag top down so my hair can blow. Feelers on standby, waiting just to say hi. Did you stop? No, just drove down, kept on. Pursuing to the next stop. I wasn't left, I'm headed to the next block. Buckled in, y'all, so I continue to A1A. Detroit Avenue, girls were hot, wearing less than bikini. Rockman lovers driving in the gate, jealous, cause I'm out getting mine. She was a gauge and the number was a 9. Gunshot, aims out like a bell. Grabbing 9 under her with shells falling on the concrete real fast. Jumped in my car, slammed on the gas. North of the Avenue's packed. Time to get away from the jack, there's Jack. Police wanna see, you know what I mean. Dressing up in front of the dope fiends. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook, DJ revolves it. Hickey. Cause I'm a lyrical poet, my aim is on the scene just to catch you didn't know it. My town, decorated all the bass sound. Never shake kick holes in the ground, cause my style's like a chemical spill. Things are magic and vision and feel. Conducted and formed with a hell of a concept. You make a hype, then you wanna do printer. Shape plays in the face, slice like a ninja, cut like a razor blade so fast. What did you say, damn, a mirage or a drug? I'd settle about a grand. Keep rocking for the walls, kind of loose, mountain pies by the mic while I kick my juice. If there was a problem, you'll all solve it. Check out the hook. DJ revolves it. Dum da da dum dum. Hey Jennifer, thanks for the PayPal. Thanks Jennifer. Da 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 da. Okay, everybody, thank you.
That's it?
Yeah, great, that's all I have to say. Gee.
What do you mean, gee?
Well, that's just what I say, okay? Gee.
Oh boy, here we go again, everybody. All right, Mary Lou, you're the greatest.
You sound like you're sarcastic. I really am the greatest.
Okay, maybe you're pretty good at the rapping, but, you're not really, everything else, not really much at all.
What do you mean, Gray?
Oh boy, you're so upset.
Not really.
Oh boy, here we go. All the acting again. All right, we'll see you guys later. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. There we go.